verse 31. Aho bata mamanatmyam Aho bata mamanatmyam Manda bhagasya pashyata Manda bhagasya pashyata Bhavachitta padamulam Bhavachitta padamulam Gatva yache yadantavat Gatva yache yadantavat Aho bata mamanatmyam Manda bhagasya pashyata Bhavachitta padamulam Gatva yache yadantavat Gatva yache yadantavat. Word by word translation by Srila Prabhupada. Aho, oh, bata, alas, mama, my, anatmyam, bodily consciousness, mandabhagasya, of the unfortunate, pashyata, just see, bhava, material existence, chida, of the Lord who can cut off, padamulam, the lotus feet, gatva, having approached, yache, I prayed for, yet, that which, antavat, perishable. Alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death. But still, out of my foolishness, I pray for things which are perishable. Once again, translation, alas, just look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can immediately cut the chain of the repetition of birth and death. But still, out of my foolishness, I prayed for things which are perishable. Purport by His Divine Grace Prabhupada. The word anatmyam is very significant in this verse. Atma means the soul, and anatmya means without any conception of the soul. Srila Rishabdev instructed his sons that unless a human being comes to the point of the understanding the Atma or spiritual position, whatever he does is ignorance. And this brings only defeat in life. Dhruva Maharaj regrets his unfortunate position, for although he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always able to give his devotee the highest benediction of cessation of the repeated birth and death, which is impossible for any demigod to offer. He foolishly wanted something perishable. When Hiranyagarbha asked immortality from Lord Brahma, Lord Brahma expressed his inability to offer such a benediction. because he himself is not immortal. Therefore, immortality or complete cessation of the chain of repeated birth and death can be offered by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, not by others. Harim vina naiva smritim taranti. It is said that without the blessing of Lord Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can stop the continuous chain of birth and death within this material world. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is also called Bhavachit. The Vaishnava philosophy in the process of Krishna consciousness prohibits the devotee from all kinds of material aspirations. A Vaishnava devotee should always be anya vilashita shunya, free from all material aspirations. For the results of fruitive activities or empiric as philosophical speculation. Dhruva Maharaj was actually initiated by Narad Muni, the great Vaishnava, in the chanting of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This mantra is a Vishnu mantra, for by practicing the chanting of this mantra, one is elevated to the Vishnu Lok. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that although he was initiated in the Vishnu mantra by a Vaishnava, he still aspired for material benefits. That was another cause of lamentation. Although he got the result of the Vishnu mantra by the causeless mercy of the Lord, he lamented how foolish he was to have strived for material benefits while practicing devotional service. In other words, every one of us who is engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness should be completely free from all material aspirations. I repeat, in other words, every one of us who is engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness should be completely free from all material aspirations. Otherwise, we will have to lament like Dhruva Maharaj. Very good point here. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swamin Niti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Niti Namini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Guru Shri Utpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Namaste Girirajaya Govardhana Namine Pranat Klesha Nashaya Paramananda Daine Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So in this verse, as we had to understand, that Dhruva Maharaj is lamenting. Dhruva Maharaj is lamenting that, what have I actually asked? And Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the previous verses, the Dhruva Maharaj, even though he had his desire was impure, but the Lord understands and grants his devotees this benediction, knowing that the devotee will not abuse that benediction, you know. So the Lord fulfilled all Dhruva Maharaj's desires. His revengeful attitude towards his stepmother and stepbrother was satisfied. His desire for a more exalted position than that of his great-grandfather was also fulfilled. And at the same time, his eternal position in Dhruva was fixed. Now, if we get this benediction, why would we not be happy? Why should Dhruva Maharaj not be happy? Why did he lament? Getting Dhruva Lok and getting to reign on the entire world for 36,000 years is no ordinary thing. No, one should be pleased. But the reason why Dhruva Maharaj was lamenting is because after having attained the Lord's audience, darshan, he was feeling depressed at what have I done? I should have asked for the Lord's devotional service. I should have asked for liberation completely. After having darshan of the Lord, I should have asked him. Lord would have granted me there straight away. But the reason why is because his initial intention was to get to sit on his father's lap. And that is the reason why he left for the forest, to do tapasya. So when we do anything, when we perform any spiritual activity, even when we do yajna, we do sankalpa. What is sankalpa? Sankalpa is basically setting intention. What is it you're doing? Why are you doing that? Now, we need to know why you're doing what you're doing. Right? When we perform yajna, then we have, as devotees, we perform yajna for Radha Krishna Prityartham, for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. But the non-devotees, they perform yajna for arogyam, dhanam, aishwaryam. These are the artha they want. These are the sankalpa they have. That dhanam, prityartham, arogyam, aishwaryam, all these different desires they have. These are sankalpas. So you set your intention right at the very beginning, and at the end of your the yajna, you basically ask forgiveness. But why you're doing it at the very beginning is very important. That's why it is explained by acharyas that in devotional service we must always have the right intention. I remember His Holiness Bir Krishna Maharaj was always used to say, set your intention, set your sankalpa every morning when you're chanting. Why are you chanting? What is the purpose of you chanting for today? What is the motivation for you to chant today? When you go to the Lord, you don't beg for material desires. Don't say, my dear Lord, grant me good health, grant me wealth, all of that. The Lord knows everything. You don't have to ask the Lord. He is situated in your heart as Paramatma. He is Antaryama. He knows everything. When we go in front of the Lord and we ask for these subtle material things, then actually we're trying to say that the Lord doesn't know. That's why I'm asking you. We are trying to portray and say that the Lord doesn't know. That's why I'm asking you. But no, the Lord knows each and everything. And the Lord fulfills only those desires that He knows that the devotee will be able to execute without any difficulty. And that will not be an obstacle in his or her spiritual life. Sometimes when you go out to the Lord, you pray, my dear Lord, give me $1 million. I want to be able to do this for you, this and that, But the Lord assesses, and this is what Srila Prabhupada explains in Krishna book as well. The difference between getting boon from the demigods and that from the Lord is different. The devotees of Lord Shiva, those who pray for Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, for benedictions, they get those benedictions because those Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva do not really care for what will be the ultimate result. What will this benediction, whether this benediction will be good for that person or not. Whereas the Lord, the Supreme Lord, thinks before granting you any benediction. Just like when Lord Brahma granted Hiranyagarbha benediction, all these different things he wanted. Lord Brahma didn't say, okay, he eventually said, okay, tathastu. Here you go, get it. But the Supreme Lord thinks twice. Will this devotee, after getting the benediction, continue to engage in my devotional service, or will that be an obstacle? If that is an obstacle, the Lord will not grant. And in that way, the Lord is our actual hiteshi, our actual well-wisher. He is our actual well-wisher. He doesn't want to grieve you anything that will stop you. Just like a father, right? A parent, when the parent sees what to give to the child when there's a toddler, as a baby, he will not give anything that the child can misuse. For example, if you give the child marbles, obviously when the child is small, the child has a tendency to put everything in his mouth, his or her mouth, right? So the father or mother will not give anything small, anything that the child could possibly put into his mouth, and that could pose danger for the child. So, when we have to be very careful what we want from the Lord, and also important for us to set the right intention right from the very beginning. The Lord will fulfill the desires, no doubt about that, of course. The desires of a pure devotee. So in this purport here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Dhruva Maharaj was initiated into the Vishnu mantra, Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. It's a very powerful Dwadashakshara mantra, which was chanted during Satyayug by Dhruva Maharaj, by Prahlad Maharaj. And Vasudev means one who resides in everything. Vas means reside. So Vasudev is one who resides in every living, everything, and the entire material manifestation. The Lord resides in every particle. And it's a very powerful mantra. So here we understand that after getting this mantra, which is equivalent to Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Kali Yuga, if we get the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we get it from the spiritual master. By chanting this mantra, one should become free from all material desires. Of course, it doesn't happen straight away. It may take a period of time. But that should be the ultimate goal. When we chant, the more we chant, the less desires should be there, material desires should be there. And by that, when we chant, we are asking for the Lord's mercy. That should be our sankalpa. My dear Lord, please engage me in your service. And that is actually the meaning of the Mahamantra. My dear Lord, Shrimati Radharani, please engage me in your service. So in this case here, in Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya, Srila Prabhupada actually quotes Dhruva Maharaj's prayer. And he says, it says here, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapaha Apranasyaiva Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. If one is born in a high family like that of a Brahman, Kshatriya or Vaishya, but is not a devotee of the Lord, all his qualifications are null and void. Indeed, they are considered decorations of a dead body. In the previous verses, we understand that Dhruva Maharaj actually mentions that unless one is connected to the Supreme Lord in devotional service, one is considered dead. And here, he says all these things, qualifications and designations, everything that you get, so of no use, so null and void, if you don't engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, all of these things are simply decorations of a dead body. Have you seen a dead body? I'm sure we all have, right? We would have all seen dead bodies, how they're decorated, dressed nicely, and all of that, put in the coffin. But what's the point? Because it's dead. What's the point of these decorations when the dead body will not be able to enjoy the decorations? So we must engage, we must not be like those dead bodies. We must become live bodies. And how can we become live? When we engage in devotional service. When we engage in devotional service as taught by the spiritual master. Now, in this case here, Dhruva Maharaj had the darshan of the Supreme Lord. Now, present day, we have got the Lord in the form of the deity, right? Non-different. But the Guru is his representation of the Supreme Lord. So when we go to spiritual master, we should ask for guidance on how can I become more engaged in spiritual service? How can I become more better devotee? How can I get rid of all the anarthas in me? This is what should be asking. But a lot of times we've seen sometimes gurus, disciples go to the Guru with all these material problems, which the Guru doesn't have anything to do with them. I remember there used to be people generally the Indians in India, when they go to a sadhu, they ask the sadhu, can you see my hand? Can you look at my Janmakshar and tell me what's going to happen to me? But the sadhu is not that for that purpose. Sadhu is there to grant you divine knowledge, give you divine knowledge, and with that knowledge you develop realization about who you are and what is the relation to the Supreme Lord and how you can engage in his service. So a lot of times people go to sadhus and ask for benedictions and stuff like that. What's the time? Okay. Very quickly finish, and then we'll have the second half of the lecture will be by His Holiness Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. We'll play video of him. So even those who believe that the body is the self, or those who are full of material desires, are also in a sense Atmaram. When they associate with pure devotees of the Lord, they give up material desires and becomes perfect in the service of the Lord. The best example of this is found in Haribhakti Sudodaya, wherein Dhruva Maharaj said, Sthanabhilashi tapasi stito ham tvam prapnavan deva manindra guhyam kacham vichinvanapi divyaratnam swamin kritarthos mivaram nayacho. This verse is actually quoted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 22, verse 42. Dhruva Maharaj says, my dear Lord, I came to worship you because I desired some land on this earth. But fortunately, I have attained you, who are beyond even the perception of great sages and saintly persons. I came to search out some particles of colored glass, and instead I found a very humble, very valuable gem like you. I am satisfied and I do not desire to ask anything of you. Now here in this verse here, Dhruva Maharaj said, I am satisfied and I do not have any desire to ask anything of you. Sometimes when we wonder, how do you balance up? How do you kind of marry the two verses where Dhruva Maharaj is saying displeased, but he is satisfied. When he's satisfied, one cannot be displeased. Simply because he had the audience of the Supreme Lord, and obviously, when you have the darshan of the Supreme Lord, you have no desires. You're completely satisfied. But because his initial intention was to get some land on earth, you know, and the Lord even granted that wish. So to sum it up, the Lord is basically the giver of liberation. There's no one else. You know, even Lord Shiva, demigods like Lord Shiva do not grant benediction, do not give a mukti. Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnu evam na sanchaya. Lord Shiva says, so Vishnu is the only giver of liberation. One should not doubt. Na evam sanchaya. And in fact, in the Ramayana, it's mentioned that people who say that who die in Kashi, that get liberated, right? This is the understanding that one who dies in Kashi, one gets liberated. But in fact, Lord Shiva says, the Ramayana says, Mahamantra joy japata maheshu Kashi mukti hetu padeshu. That means Lord Shiva grants that person, whoever dies in Kashi, mukti simply by the potency of the Mahamantra. Whoever dies in Kashi, the Lord recites the Mahamantra in that person's ear. And the person simply by the potency, by hearing the holy name, gets liberated. Lord Shiva doesn't grant liberation at all. You know? In the Harivamsha, Lord Shiva also said, Eshovo moksha data. Lord Krishna is a giver of moksha. And there's so many wonderful verses where this is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is a giver of liberation. And so we should engage our lives, our service in the Supreme Lord's service. In this case, it's a very nice story that comes to mind. Srila Prabhupada used to say that there was once a woman who was carrying, in India, you know how people sometimes carry big logs, sticks, or, on their head for firewood. So they take it they go to the forest, fetch whatever sticks, logs they can get, and they put it on the head, in a bundle, and then they come back home. And they use this as for burning the stove. So one time there was this lady was putting all these sticks on the head, and she's getting home, and all of a sudden there was a big wind that blew over her. And as a result of that, all the logs fell over. And then when that happened, she started saying, Govinda, 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 and that naturally happens, right? When something bad happens to you, you would say, oh Krishna, oh Krishna, oh Krishna. So she had, when the logs fell over, obviously she chanted, Govinda, 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 and Govinda appeared. And the Lord said, how can I help you? So this lady, instead of asking for the Lord, I don't want anything now. Now that you've appeared, please engage me in your service. Obviously could have asked it, but she said, can you pick those logs for me, put it on my head? So in a similar way, this lamentation. After that, there's a lamentation. What if I'm sure when she would have realized that actually that is the Supreme Lord. Why did I ask for these mundane things? But sometimes we do, and sometimes when the Lord appears to us, we may not be able to think, but of course we will always think by the mercy of the Lord. We will be able to ask the right things, use the right words to glorify the Lord only by the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, we are kind of dumb, we don't have the ability to glorify the Lord nicely or ask for this. So always we have to take the guidance of the spiritual master. Whatever the spiritual master says, take that to heart and engage ourselves in the spiritual, in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Set your intention correctly daily. When you chant, whatever you do, you have to set the right intention. Have the right sankalpa. Because that sankalpa, that intention will actually motivate you to do more and more and more in devotional service. If you have the right intention. And as devotees, when you're initiated, whether you're not initiated, just chant and engage in service. So those are the concluding words. Anyone have got any comments, questions before I turn on the video of Shri Gurudev?
Good intention.
Sorry?
The desire to do good.
Desire to do good, but as in what sense? That building a temple and all that's a good desire. So that is perfectly all right.
Good desire.
As long as you're not entangled in that in the desire, you don't get attached to it. You perform your devotional service, but without expectation. At the end of the day, you offer that to the Lord, whatever you have. The Lord will take care. You continue to work. You don't, just by having a desire doesn't mean anything. You need to work towards it, right? If you want to build a temple or you want to serve the devotees, it's a good intention. With that intention, pray to the Lord, that, my dear Lord, how can I serve your devotees even more? And you work out how you will do that, by offering them prasadam or whatever way you can. And that's good. That's a good idea. That in fact, those desires will actually make you more blissful. When you serve the devotees, when you chant the holy names, what do you feel? How do you feel? We feel good, right? We enjoy, we feel blissful, we feel so happy that we've been able to serve the devotees. You know? So ultimately, Name Ruchi, Jiva Daya, Vaishnava Seva, these are three things Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke. And Vaishnava Seva is very important. Nama Ruchi is there, you chant the holy names. Jiva Daya, compassion on living entities. And everyone, in fact, you know, whether the person is a devotee or not. We should always see as ourselves as no one, nowhere, you know, very low person, but we give respects to others. Because all of them are devotees of Lord. Some of them realize, some of them don't. Anything else? No? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We will now have a small video of Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. And it's let's see how long it is.
But just fully surrendered.
Small one. So, one big moment.
A great personality is described. His name is Maharaj Parikshit, the great king and grandson of the famous Pandava brothers. This king, Parikshit Maharaj, was the emperor of the entire world. And being a very heroic and powerful king, he used to travel throughout the world to see that justice was upheld and sins were curbed down. Once, during his tour of the world, he came upon a very unfortunate situation. He saw a man with a sword in his hand, cutting down the legs of a bull. And the bull was only standing on one leg, the other three having been broken and cut down. And the cow was standing next to this bull, and the cow was crying. This man with the sword, who was performing such a horrible act, was the personality of Kali, the symbol of irreligion for this age. This age is described as the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. In an age like this, there are so many unfortunate conditions. People are very short-lived. They're always forgetful. They're misguided, unfortunate, and their minds are always disturbed. The poor bull and cow were suffering very much. So this bull is the symbol of religion. The bull is called Dharma, or religion. And what are the principles of religion? These principles of religion are symbolized by the four legs of the bull. The first is austerity. The second is mercy. The third is cleanliness. And the fourth is truthfulness. These four principles of religion are the basis of a righteous civilization. But in the Kali Yuga, we find that these four principles are becoming more and more non-existent. Formerly, in previous history, for example, in the Satyayug, all of these principles of religion were intact. But now in the Kali Yuga, there is no more austerity. There is no more mercy. There is no more cleanliness. The only leg of the bull which is left standing is truthfulness. And even truthfulness is fast disappearing. We find in this age so many sinful activities are going on. Why? Because people do not know what the goal of life is. A man today, even he goes through the highest degree of education, he may not know who he is.
But generally, these austerities are from the one's childhood. Therefore, you find that the children who are properly trained in principles of religion, they grow up very nicely. Austerity is spoiled by pride. Nowadays, even a poor or a woman is proud and pain. Everyone is very much proud. This is one of the qualities of the mind. When people don't have any austerity or do nothing, pride is the same. A man who is too much proud, he will be cut down. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended Trinity saints and these Amanena, Hiranyagarbha. That one has to be more humble than a blade of grass. If one wants to make advancement in spiritual life, a blade of grass is always being trampled upon. But still, it does not protest. But similarly, a man has to be very, very humble because so many difficulties will be before you. There will be so much ridicule, especially if you want to be of God in this day and age, because people are arrogant. A devotee who is not glorified, he may be ridiculed. Just see Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and they crucified him. But he's so humble and tolerant that he says, God forgive him. Similarly, the great Vaishnava saint Haridas Thakur traveled through 23 villages, being beaten and flogged because he was chanting the holy name. He was born Muslim, but he was chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And so many people beat him, telling him, stop this chant. Of course, these are very extreme examples, but nevertheless, a devotee of God has to be very humble and tolerant. Pride, therefore, is an obstacle to spiritual life. And we find that especially an intoxicated person becomes falsely proud. When a man becomes drunk, he begins to brag very loudly because he is not within his correct senses. Actually, all scriptures of the world advise that one should not waste their life and waste their money drinking liquor or alcohol or taking any type of intoxicants. A real government should control this intoxication, because we find that when citizens take intoxication, they don't want to work. A man takes whatever money his family has, and instead of properly caring for his wife and children, he goes to the liquor shop, drinks up all the value of the money. Even his poor wife and children may be starving to death. He will not care. And what to speak of spiritual life, for that he has no interest. During the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were two drunkards, Jagai and Radha. Now they were brutes, they were meat eaters, woman hunters, and addicted to all bad habits. When the incarnation of Godhead, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, please chant Hare Krishna. And when Haridas Thakur, the great saint, who please chant, instead of chanting, they took the earthen jug used for holy liquor and threw it on the two preachers, breaking it out of their head. So just understand that someone who's very intoxicated, he doesn't know about what is to be done and what is not. Perhaps you are familiar with the story of the two born demigods, the sons of Kuvera, and Muruguru. These two boys, being the sons of very great persons, the treasurer of demigods, they were drinking and became intoxicated and were bathing came by her, and they were so intoxicated they did not even follow their bodies. So, of course, you know, they were condemned to take their birth as trees by Narayana. But of course, when a saintly person curses someone, it is also a blessing in disguise. So the two boys took their birth as two trees, the Yama trees, in the courtyard of Lord Krishna, and none of them are in the garden. So you all know how one day Mother Yasoda bound up Krishna with a rope and put the rope on the water to bind him. Krishna then began to crawl on the floor, and so he pulled the water between the two trees and knocked the trees over. And then the two demigods again came to their original body. And this time they were full consciousness, and they realized the blessing had come on account of the words of Narayana. So they opened their faces, they circumambulated Krishna, and they became great devotees of the Lord. In any case, intoxication is a harmful thing. We find that now today more and more people are addicted to intoxication. This intoxication I was reading today in the local newspaper edition, that a book has just been written by the relatives of the famous rock and roll singer Elvis Presley. And there in this book, they have said that Elvis Presley died because he was a drug addict. So Elvis Presley was worshipped by millions and millions of people. He's so famous that the house where he was living before he died, people come from Europe to see this house. Not only they come to see this house, but 1 square inch of land in this house, in this backyard of this house, is being sold for $10,000 a square inch. People were so mad at this. And what was this man? It was a drug addict. So many famous people are either drunkards, drug addicts, everyone's drinking now. It is a very good thing. But drinking means that at night you go to sleep late, and in the morning, instead of waking up early in the morning to chant Hare Krishna on the japa beats, instead of getting up, the hour and a half before the sun rises, at that time, the mind is very peaceful, just like a lake, a body of water is peaceful in the morning, because there's no fish, everything's moving, everything's sleeping. So similarly, 1.5 hours before sunrise, everything's still sleeping. And because it's dark, you don't get distracted by all the sights around you. And that's the best time for spiritual life. This is when it is best to chant on the japa beats, Hare Krishna. Therefore, we go to the temple at that time for attending the Mangala Arati ceremony of the Krishna deity. Mangala means auspicious. So, if one is drunk or taking other types of intoxication, what is the question of his? He cannot do it. He has no interest in spiritual life. Not only no interest in spiritual life, but his daily activities in material life are also affected. He becomes practically worthless. So how to overcome these different problems like drinking or drug addiction? You have to replace this activity with something better. What is that something better? The Hare Krishna mantra. If you begin to chant Hare Krishna, gradually you will give up this bad thing. Krishna's name will give you the strength to overcome your habit or your addiction. tradition. You would be surprised, but people are very connected to so many different things. Even coffee, which has some caffeine. If a man tries to give it up, it is very difficult. So how to give up so many types of intoxication? Start with champagne. Even one round a day will make it easy to give it up one day. That's really by changing. Changing. The Lord said, so eventually, so this is the first principle, austerity. One has to be austere. Second principle, mercy. Mercy is also a principle that is very, very found nowadays. Because due to intoxication, a man will do so many harmful things. When someone is intoxicated, they're even able to kill their animals. That has happened. We have seen so many reports in newspapers of people under the influence of intoxication that kill their own animals. And another thing which is very much causing lack of mercy is animal killing. Actually, in all the scriptures of the world, there is an advice not to kill animals. Of course, we know the Bible says, thou shalt not kill. So, this thou shalt not kill means not to kill any animals at all. But unfortunately, people are taking it to mean that you should always not kill human beings. But actually, everything has a soul inside. So only God can give life. Therefore, only God can give life. Actually, even a plant, even a potato, there's a reaction. But if you offer this potato by cooking it nicely and offering it to Krishna, then Krishna takes a reaction. And Krishna, because he is God, there's no reaction. Therefore, the way to be able to eat, you only eat Krishna Prasad. Food stuff spoken to God. Of course, now you're hearing this, very good. Now I know some people have a secret. So I'll kill next chicken and offer to Krishna. No. Because Krishna says, he says you can offer me a leaf of flowers. There are certain things that Krishna eats, but Krishna does not eat chicken. We learned a very interesting fact. Did you know that Fiji is the #1 nation in the world per person for eating poultry, chickens? Fiji citizens eat more chicken per person than any other citizens of any other country. We are engaged in national politics. The farmers use these chickens for meat. Those 2 million chickens, so and another million broccoli. They were feeding. The produce is very big chicks, so we put them in the machine for 21 days. And this is the final results. Congratulations. You're all going to hell. Yes. I don't say it. That is stated in the Bible, that is stated in the Vedas, and that is stated everywhere else. That when you kill an animal, then that animal will have to kill you. In the Vedas, there is a mention that there are two types of calves, habitatory mark and laboratory mark. Habitatory mark means those persons who are interested in enjoying life. So for such person, for example, who eat animals or eat meat, the Vedas recommend, yes, you can eat meat, but only on one day. And on that day, you have to take the animal and kill it at a certain time and offer it to God's body. And while you offer it, there's a special mantra to mention. And what does that mantra translate to say? My dear animal, today I am taking you and offering it to God's body. And next time, in my next life, you will kill me and offer it to God's body. So gradually, when an intelligent man says this prayer, he thinks so. And he thinks, what am I doing? Did you know that if you kill a cow, which is the most sacred animal, that for every hair on the body of that cow, you have to take your birth and be killed that many thousands of times? You know who knows this? Due to poor information, people are doing so many simple things. One man here told us that he was a Brahmin, but his Panditji, his teacher told him, yes, you can eat meat because eating Brahmins, they're out. These things are wonderful. Actually, there's no permission given at all. None whatsoever. You can never kill a cow because the cow is a mother. The mother is giving milk. The cow is giving milk. Just imagine when you you're killing a cow. Therefore, what kind of person kills his own mother? Someone has no mercy at all. This is the point. Someone has no mercy at all. The cow is so beneficial. She gives her milk. The cow dung, or the stool of the cow, is sometimes used in India, for example, for people. Then dry it up and use it just like wood. And the cow urine is used for curing certain diseases. Cow dung is so nice to be spread out. No fly will land on it. It is so clean and antiseptic. And it's cool in the summer and warm and very pure. The cow horns are used for the cow skin, after the cow dies, naturally, the skin can be used for shoes and other things. So just see how nice the cow is. Living or dead, she's always giving service. And how do we reward her for service? Take the milk from her and she stops giving milk to her. Now just think, what is this civilization? This powerful civilization. The government is also these slaughterhouses. So, all these slaughterhouses. The government should be protecting the cow. The cow will give milk. Why not take it? Why kill the cow and drink blood? Because milk is a blood transport. Once you kill a cow, then you keep getting benefit and she'll die naturally. Then you keep her. You have to. Or why kill her? So one kills the cow, or one eats meat. This is key breaking principles of religion.
Hare Krishna. Srila Gurudev ki jai. That brings us to the end of the class. Anyone who's got any points they'd like to share? No? That's the case, we can close the class. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hiranyagarbha Prabhuji, for the nice class. We'll end now. Dear devotees, today is Vyasa Puja of Sri Krishna Goswami Maharaj. You are welcome to participate from 10 or 10:30. Thank you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Hiranyagarbha Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Nigar Panigo, Panchakarpatra Vesha, Kipavasin Vesha, Patilam Pavani Vyo, Vishnu Vyo Namnam.